He didn't slam into you, he didn't bump you, he didn't nudge you, he rubbed you. And rubbing's son is racing.
And welcome everybody to Locked On iRacing. We are in the year 2021, the season of Season 3 and the week of 2. And I'm Peter Wilkinson, and this is Braden Martin, Mr. Sunday Night Light Star. How you going, mate?
Not too bad. I made it here barely, but I'm here.
Barely. We are only slightly late. We've got lots of stuff planned for after the podcast, but it's okay. She's fine. We'll get there. It's all good. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Thank you, everyone who's been listening and been taking the time to go and review the podcast on your podcast app of choice. And for those people definitely who have subscribed and shared it with their friends, you guys are the MVPs. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's done that. Everyone who's jumped in our Discord as well, you're really helping us out as well. Grow that Discord, which is at the lockedonlads.com/Discord, or the link is in the show notes. If you're interested in joining our Facebook page, go do that for sure. We are trying our best to get some more content up there in the background right now. Just finding time and people to do it is the key, but it's Locked On Lads over there on Facebook. Go there and give us a follow and a like. And then if you do want to help, just come and either message us there or come meet us in the Discord and give us a message and see how you can help us out grow the content on this podcast. Just on that, quickly, I'd just like to thank Clayton Davies for sponsoring the podcast for the next couple of weeks. So you can go find him at CD Simtography over on Facebook. We'll have a link in the show notes for that as well. Doing some great stuff there with photos of dirt cars, not only in iRacing but in real life. So go check that one out. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on, but he's an absolute legend. So go help him because he's helping us out. And we have got a few more people coming on board in the next couple of weeks. Once we finalise those details, I will let you know more details, which would be really good. Braden, mate, how you been?
Not too bad. Just busy week and just busy everything at the moment. But what have we been up to?
Couple days ago, mate. You're on holidays. You're all fine.
Yeah, you need it. What have I been up to? So obviously we had Ozicar last week, which was good.
Yeah.
Where did we even head to Ozicar?
We went to that track, that one with the places and the things.
Oh, with the turns and the off tracks and those kind of things. So
you can't remember, can you?
I have no idea. I'm struggling tonight. But we did do Ozicar, and I know where we went. We went to Nürburgring GP. That's why I've been trying to put it out of my mind. That's probably why I can't remember.
Mister gets a top. Oh no, you didn't get a top. Oh, you got 5th or 6th, didn't you? Oh, we'll get to that later anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, you went to...
Stuck my head in a couple of officials at Sonoma, which was okay. Also, apparently stuck
Sunday
in...
Night Lights.
Yeah.
You raced there, didn't you?
Well, no, it was the race after Sunday Night Lights that apparently I was in that I definitely didn't know about. So that was a nice little 119 iRating loss that I didn't notice until I checked my iScheduler app a couple of days later and went, hold on a second, why have I lost over 100 odd iRating and I haven't even raced?
And he's not salty about it at all, don't worry, people. It's all good, he's all happy about it. Mr. Road to 3,000.
Yeah, been a bit of a jack of all trades and master of none this week because I also did some race control for Ira. He was needed a bit of help and decided to jump in and try my hand again at the old race control, which has been a while since I've done that. It just happened to be the busiest race control we've had for Ozicar in probably about 5 seasons, so that was interesting.
Wasn't that a race or two? Jesus, there were some things going on, especially my favourite point was in race 1 when the 3 leaders decided to trip over each other. Well, really, the leader decided to trip over second place, which then took third place out.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff, but we'll hear more about that later, I guess, in the results. But
tuned in.
Gee, what haven't you done though? What haven't you done?
Well, yeah, add that to the list, and then obviously been practicing for Le Mans coming up this week for Ozicar, so I'm sure we'll touch base on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's not just any practice for Le Mans in Ozicar. It's Enduro week, so it's not just let's just practice how fast we can go. It's now practice how fast we can go while saving fuel. How fast can we go behind other people? How fast can we go beside next other people? How many laps can we go? There's all kinds of intrigue going into this one that we've had to test out and have fun with. So,
and then
a different week.
You can add on to that apparently throwing my hat in the commentating ring. So got a message late on Sunday evening from the one and only Alex McKellar. His usual commentary partner's having a little bit of trouble with his mic. So jumped in to commentate on Sunday Night Lights, which was interesting. Hopefully people watched it and didn't completely turn them off of watching SNL, because it's a great series. But had a few nice words from a couple of people, which was nice to see. And then watched a bunch of Formula One over the weekend and tuned in and watched.
You fell asleep in front of some Formula One, didn't you?
No, I didn't fall asleep. That was Mitesy who fell asleep. I managed to somehow keep my eyes awake for all of it, but it was a pretty boring race. So the too long didn't read on that one is Verstappen started pole and drove around for a long time in first place, and then continued to drive around in first place until the end of the race, where he stayed in first place. So it was a pretty boring race. There wasn't a lot to it.
Oh, anyway, it happened again. That's fine.
So that's been my week.
It's
It's been busy.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I've been busy with outside of iRacing stuff. Unfortunately, we've got obviously COVID lockdown. We've just entered in up in Queensland, southeast Queensland. So that brings a whole world of issues to my business, as well as actual people off sick, or people can't work and things like that. So it's been crazy, and I'm getting new contracts and getting prices for other new contracts, and it's all kind of fun. But we'll go into that on another podcast somewhere else. But what that's meant is the only time I get to jump on the sim is a little bit in an afternoon when my wife is doing her exercise classes and the kids are running feral, which they did tonight, and get about 35 minutes around Le Mans practicing, and did a bit of practice with you guys on the weekend on Sunday in the mega practice session that Ira put up on a Sunday, which seems to be a regular thing now, which I'm looking forward to. And sort of getting to the point, I had a good practice tonight, Braden. You missed out. Me and Leon were in there, and no draft whatsoever, no draft help. And I went out and went, okay, I'm just going to practice the 4 laps, because that's the key with this week. It's who can get 4 laps the quickest, because it's a 10-lap race, and 2 stops get you home if you can do 4 laps in one of the stints. And I did that today. I didn't cough at all. Got into thing with about 2.2 of a litre spare. So the clutch was used to roll from the final straight where pit lane is, like all the way down into pit lane, and then right up to the chicanes, and then having to brake hard to shoot around the chicane in pit entrance, and then went fairly good 60 k's an hour into the pit bay and out. 51-second pit stop, which was good. All laps around the 450, which is a bit slower than the best, but not bad when you're saving fuel. And then did 3 laps and got a 447 in there with a mistake on the final 2 chicanes.
Well, a few of us were talking about you and your fuel usage numbers, and we've decided that you don't actually have a accelerator equipped to your Skip Barber. That was what we decided.
It's ridiculous. I'm doing 1.9s, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying being the person who's actually doing better than everyone else for once, even though I'm slower than everyone. So it'll be interesting. Like, how confident are you going into the race that you can do a 4-lap stint without, like, obviously if there's draft, you reckon you can do it?
Oh yeah, I can't do it without draft. There's no way.
Okay.
Unless I can, if I just choose to not drive the back straight at all. But in terms of without a draft, with a draft, I think I have my idea around what I would need to do to get around 4 laps. As long as there's someone around about, it'll just be about what that person wants to do, and whether they're very supportive in that plan or not so supportive in that plan.
Middle of the race, there'll be like 6 cars on the back straight, and they'll all be trying to get behind each other and get in front.
Exactly.
So the first 3, the last 3 will be all battling to be in front, and the middle 4 will be like, no, you lead.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Obviously, having some of you guys around will definitely help, and we've tried to talk a little bit about what we can do as a team to support each other to get sort of through as best we can, but ultimately once the race starts, and all best laid plans can fall apart very quickly. So
I can definitely see there will be a certain percentage of the field that will do 3 stops, and there's just nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be it'll be something.
It's a very interesting little thing. I love the Enduros, and then we've got Speedway week after it, so I can't wait for that as well. But yeah, so the other thing I did, we obviously raced in Ozicar, which we'll go through that in a sec before we head into the news and updates and stuff like that, which there's not much of, let me tell you right now. But I did NASCAR trucks at Michigan Legacy Track in the Aussie Online Gaming Scrap Truck Series on Wednesday night. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, we had a massive that night for Locked On Racing on Wednesday night, and the trucks was me and Tim Cornt got in there, round 0, just a bit of a practice week, and found myself last in qualifying, which doesn't surprise anyone, to be honest, but was in there with Sam, and then there was Justin Howe in there as well. We sort of had a bit of fun mucking around. All of a sudden, I'm racing, I'm finding a bit of pace, sticking with people, which is good. There's a little bit of buttoning off and then going again. There's no break needed on Michigan, but started to get the line and the groove, and then as with fuel, I'm actually good on tyres as well. So, midway through the field, you start seeing people fall back on you, and you start gaining up on people, and then I think I was once again the furthest on fuel in that series, and then got ahead of Ryan Jones, was battling away, did a pit stop, came out ahead of someone by a significant margin, and I'm like, here we go. Only to realise I then had a big battle with Brady Baldwin until I battled too hard and my tyres gave way and hit a wall as well, and then realised I was 3 litres short for the race and had to come in and pit. And that's where everything went wrong, Braden. It was one of those things.
I saw.
It was 5 laps to go. I'm like, well, I'll just get this out of the way. There's no way I can fuel save to get home. So let's go into pits. And then I got a black flag on entry for speeding in pits. Then I missed my pit box and then had to reverse back and then had to serve the 40-second penalty and put my fuel in and come back out for 1 lap to go. So yeah, it wasn't the best result. I got just ahead of Tim. I was running 8th or 9th, I think. On 9th I could have got, I reckon. If I had pushed Brady, I could have got 8th. But yeah, just ran the tyres into the ground, unfortunately. But the biggest problem with that was that Ryan Jones finished ahead of me since I had to go stop for fuel. But I wasn't the only one. There was a few of us who did it too. I went on Race Labs and I looked at the average, not the overall. If we had got one more safety car, it would have been right. But anyway, it is what it is. So do you want to start talking about Ozicar before we go into the news and results of how you went last week?
I guess we can, if you're forcing me to relive that horrific evening.
Just give us a quick recap of race 1. Come on.
Why race 1? Why can't I'd rather we talk about race 2 if we're going to talk about either race. So
you paid your bet on with Tim. I don't even know what happened in that game. Did Swans win or Adelaide win?
Adelaide. You do mean Port Adelaide, right? There's
Adelaide Crows, isn't it?
No one cares about them. So I stuck it on 6th spot in qualifying again. So that was 3 races, 3 6 spots in a row to start the season, which was great, and made a relatively good start. I had to cover. Well, I didn't go to cover. I sort of went to go and take the normal racing line before I realised I had Ben Snell behind me, who decided to poke his nose out on the inside, and I was like, okay, well, I have to cover Ben because he's super great driver, but he's super aggressive, and he would have taken that inside and stole it away from me straight away. So I managed to cover him and keep him at bay for the first few turns and for the first part of the lap. I think I got a little off track on the way out. I don't know if it was lap 1 or lap 2, but it could have been lap 1 in that sort of left-right section before you go to get ready to head down towards the hill. But that was all good. I kind of expect that. I said earlier in the week, well, there's no way I'm finishing either of these races with no off tracks because Like, it was just so easy to run wide, and you really want to keep the momentum going. Otherwise, it's really easy to catch up.
The limit to that track.
Yeah, and I guess, I'd done so much practice over the last week and a bit that, I guess I was, I wasn't feeling good because I'm always nervous on race night, and I normally, not do terrible, but normally just so many times over the last couple of seasons I've made a silly mistake. That's cost me. And then, coming up into the chicane on the first lap, I think it was John Schultz was probably a couple of car lengths back of Alex McKellar, and it just seemed like he checked up a bit more than Alex John thought he would, which checked up Alex John and which checked up Russell, and obviously me, the last one in the train, the last to see the checkup at the back, spun Russell around in the chicane. Which gave me some damage, and also, I was in trouble basically straight away. So sort of called out.
Contact, unfortunately, is frowned upon, and you did try. You got over the mic trying to get, "Hey Russell, can I redress?" But poor Russell was stuck in the middle of the chicane, couldn't go anywhere. Cars going behind him and in front of him.
Yeah, so I think I let you through and let a couple other people as I was trying to just sort of slow and sort of see where he was going to come out, and by the time I'd realised, well, there's no way he's not going to get going again, or it's going to be more of a penalty to myself. Which in hindsight actually probably wasn't. But it was
like 4 seconds in it.
Yeah, it
wasn't much.
It was right on the bubble. So I ended up going on with the rest of the race as it was meant to go. Had damage, so I managed to overtake you and I think someone else. I managed to stay with Sean and Ben Snell for pretty much most of the first half of the race. Only because I was able to stay in their draft. I had nose cone damage and front wing damage. So as soon as I lost their draft, I lost a lot of speed, and Chastity was basically chasing me down, but didn't quite get to me. So I ended up finishing the race in 5th. But then, 30-second penalty sort of dropped me all the way down to like 18th or something, which was, disappointing because, like I said, I'd done so much practice and had really, really good time. Topped a practice session. 2 races in Germany, one at the Nürburgring Nordschleife and one at the Nürburgring GP track, and I've had 2 penalties. So just don't let me go to Germany, I think is the lesson learned here.
See, the trick is you don't tell race control and you don't get a penalty, because I'll get to race 2 in a sec. But so you definitely helped me by giving me position through a penalty. That was really good. Thank you very much. And we had some locked on help there to get me in the top 10 officially across the line for me, with Mitesy getting a slowdown on the last chicane, which caused him to have to pull up. But I started 13th, which is my best qualifying in a long time, which I was really happy with, and really I stuck in. I got an off track on the second lap, put a safety one in the first lap, which wasn't going to be good enough. It's going to be about 20th, and then got a really good, for me, just a really clean lap on the third lap, and stuck it in 13th. Was 12th for a second there, and I thought, here we go, and just dropped 1 spot. And from the start, dodged some chaos in that first little left-right hander. Dodged the chaos at the end of the chicane, what you caused, because at that stage I had someone just pulling up behind me, going to start diving down the inside, and then we saw the crash ahead, so that sort of pulled their nose back in and gave me a bit of a breather on them, and all of a sudden I was sitting in about 6th or so, floating around there for a little while, and then Chastity's come up behind me, and I've done what I do when Chastity comes up behind me. I pull over and let him pass, and unfortunately 3 cars went with him, and I lost 4 spots in the matter of about 3 laps. 3 corners. So that was a silly mistake of mine. I should have just pushed on, but it is what it is, unfortunately. And then just sort of battled away and stuck it. Made sure that obviously I knew Dennis Hancock was he's leading the road to 2K, and I'm in there with a shot of that at the moment. So I was just trying to stay ahead of him. In hindsight, I didn't really help because he got a 0x and I got a 1x, and he got 2 bonus points and ended up finishing more points in that race run than I did. But crossed the line in 10th, would have been 11th if Mitesy hadn't have got his off track and then got promoted to 9th because of yours. So that's my best result for the season and best result for a very long time. And one of those things where I said going in that, you know, top 15's the goal, and then top 10 would be amazing. So got one of them on the board, which is really good. And then we went to race 2. And how did you go in race 2? A lot better, except for the qualifying.
Well, yeah, so qualifying started pretty well. I was on a decent lap and I was up on whatever my relative was, well, not my relative, my optimal, whatever it was for the start of the session by about 2 or 3 tenths, which probably would have given me, I can't remember exactly what the lap times were around there, but basically whatever the lap time was, Ben Snell was just went under the second that I was looking at, so he was like a 0.9, and I was the next second up, with probably looking like I was going to get a 0.2 or a 0.1, and second place ended up being like a 0.3 or a 0.4. So I would have probably stuck it on the front row for the first time since, funnily enough, Nürburgring Nordschleife a couple of seasons ago. But off track, going through the chicane, which obviously invalidates your one and only lap driving around in race 2, which chucked me back to the rear of the field, which was 24th. So not the rear of the field, but a lot further back than the second place I was possibly looking at.
Yep.
And then from there, it was just a bit of a grind uphill. I had a really good start. Took a few people. I was probably pretty aggressive off the start, going up the inside and taking a few places. I actually got tapped a little bit. I can't remember. I think it was maybe like David Summers or apologies, David, if it wasn't you, but someone in a blue car hit me on the exit of turn 1. I sort of got him / he got me. No damage, no foul or anything like that. And had a pretty good first lap. So I was probably a little bit not as aggressive as I should have been on pit entry. I was a bit worried about, I didn't want to be that guy overtaking in the pit lane. But the couple of cars ahead of me were maybe a little bit slower and not as aggressive as I'd practiced my pit lane entry. So I probably could have gained a little bit more time even so on pit entry. But I ended up coming out of the pits just behind Tim, I think, who started around 10th. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it does.
So started, behind Tim and caught Tim pretty quickly. He was let me through. Unfortunately, at the same time, Brady was coming out of the pits. So he let me through, but also got himself into a battle with Brady. And I sort of drove away from him, caught up to Matthew. He had a bit of a rough exit on the exit of the final turn, so I managed to get through on him. I felt like I had a bit more pace than him anyway, so I think he probably would have let me through at some point. I think he actually said on the straight and then messed up the last turn and was like, or here. And then basically Matthew sort of stayed in my draft for the rest of the race. I think I towed him along a little bit, which was good for him. And basically I just sat 3 seconds behind Chastity for the rest of the race, who sat 3 seconds behind John for the rest of the race. And none of us could really catch up any further until Chastity sort of got on the end of the big #green wall on the last lap, but due to them battling. So I ended up coming home in 8th, up 16 spots, which was nice. Bit salty. Didn't get any mention on the broadcast about that big drive.
Mate, you got to be Sperry's favourite child to get a mention on the podcast.
I know.
The broadcast.
So it was okay. It was just a round of what could have, should have been. I really felt like I was a good chance for a podium. As good a chance for a podium as I've been for a long time on any track, even with this stacked field. Yeah. But, inexperience, I suppose, and poor mistakes, and that's what you get.
That's it. Come along really well, which is really good to see. So mine started pretty similar to yours, except for I almost threw in the towel. I got on the turn 4 coming out. I just went a little too wide and just not enough across the right side of the white line and got an off track. And at that stage, I was frustrated because I really didn't want to do that. I need qualifying to get myself up there, and that ruined the qualifying for me. So just about to chuck her into the wall and go in the pits and sulk. And I thought, no, I'll use this. I'll practice the rest of the track. Luckily, because SimSpeed and Sperry were commentating my qualifying lap, and it would have looked quite awkward, me just bolting into the wall and chucking it in. So that was interesting. It wouldn't have been a good time anyway, but would have, beaten all the people who didn't qualify, so it could have got me in the top 20. But ended up starting like 28th or something like that. And yeah, tried to do the long game. I don't think I'll do that for a while because it just didn't work. Like I got clear air, which was great, and I watched Stuart Crawford, Ira Felberg, and Dennis Hancock in front of me just slowly get closer and closer and closer. Got to the tail of them, and then they started holding me up with 2 laps before the pit window closed, and stupidly, for some reason, decided to dive in then with 1 more lap to go. I should have just stayed out there a little bit longer, and then they put me out on cold tyres, which made me then lose ground on them. But then had the tyres warm up so I could start catching them. We actually got up on the back of Stuart. Actually, no, Stuart came out behind me. He's pitted halfway through the race for some reason. That's right. But there, he got in front of me. Jeremy got in front of me. There's a whole people got in front of me. But I was battling with Stuart and had a car come down the inside of me. I want to be Craig Kermit or someone like that. But they sort of had me looking to my right and then sort of slightly missed my braking marker. And also Stuart probably broke a little bit earlier on that first turn than I was used to. And just, I put on the brakes, but it wasn't enough. Just tapped him and spun him. And so I went off and waited for him to get sorted and came back on behind him. And so to redress and not get a penalty from it, and broke my nose cone. So that was the end of that. Straight line speed, and tried to hold on as much as I can. I lost another position to end up 22nd for the race by like 0.003 of a second or something stupid. We were both on both noses were on the start finish line. At one point, it was that close. So unfortunately, yeah, not a very good haul of points. But luckily, a few of the other Road to 2K people didn't have a very good race. But unfortunately, Dennis Hancock did, and he now holds a 19-point lead, which we'll get to in a sec, I guess. But once again, sitting like the result was good. You look at it by itself, definitely a 9th was amazing, but a 22nd middle of the road, so that second race with more points up for grabs was definitely what could have been. I should have just pitted early with everyone else and just drafted with people and overtake and went right to the line, but should have qualified better. Should have actually qualified, but anyway,
yeah,
it's all good.
And I think yeah, that was what I was just frustrated with. Like you said, it was that what could have been stuff. And, after such a good first round, it was the first time I've had a good first round of the season in a long time. It just kind of, not that, like before the season, I'm pretty sure I was sort of saying, if I can make sure I stay in the top 10 and, that'd be good. But, after that first round, it was sort of like, hey, if I play things right and I am consistent this season, there's that chance that I could even maybe somehow get towards those podium places. And now it's really relying on, Alex Johns to have a really bad couple of rounds somewhere, or and me still be really fast and consistent, which, makes it hard, but it is what it is. We move on to next week and hope for the best, which, like we'll talk about at some point, it's gonna be interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a big one because obviously all the points are up for grabbing one race. So, the better you go in that race, the better your season will end up, unfortunately. So, look, that's what we've been up to. It's a more of an extended version this week. We will probably have to cut it down soon, or we'll just, we've got some other plans coming up for it. But there's just not much news and updates to go on this week. So, let's go into the news and the updates. So, full disclosure, there's nothing actually in the folder, but we are going to quickly talk about 2 things. Like I said, we've got a 12-month sponsor coming up for the podcast / for the racing team, so looking forward to announcing that in the very, very near future. We've got a like I said, Clayton Davies coming on as just a short-term sponsor, which is really cool. We're going to work with him. So CD Simtography, sorry. Go check him out on Facebook. Get some photos done for your dirt cars and stuff like that. He's an absolute legend and a really good driver in his own right. So definitely go check him out. But he's come on board, which is really good. You'll start seeing the liveries of these, the logos for these guys appearing on the cars and the trucks as well. You'll also see a pretty cool photo shoot coming up tonight, so hopefully the results of that will come out soon. We're getting the Locked On Racing photo shoot coming up, so that's another bit of news from us. The only other real thing is Locked On Racing has picked up Tim Harris, so unfortunately he's not going to be driving with us in the Ozicar because we've already got half the field in Ozicar. We don't want to take too many people up, but he is coming on board for his Pro-Am series, GT3 series, which is racing right now over on FGM eCast. So look forward to seeing him in the BMW. He's in the Cadillac tonight for the wildcard round, but looking forward to working with Tim, yet another Tim, a little bit more in the future. So that's really good to see, and congratulations for coming along. But that is the news and updates. Let's go into the actual racing results. Braden, what has happened? There's been so much racing on this week. Let's quickly go into, I guess, the biggest thing of the weekend. Did you get to watch any Scops or not?
Not really, to be honest.
Okay, that's cool.
I didn't really get a chance to, unfortunately. I did watch when I say watched the broadcast, I watched Chastity's race from his perspective for the Super Split 2, which was interesting. But yeah, due to a couple of things and then pitching in for SNL, I didn't quite get a chance, and I just have not had the time to go back and watch the broadcast like I normally would this week. But luckily, you've had some help.
Yes, we have. We are recording something with Jay, and we will have that on the podcast right now. So welcome Jay Kennedy to the podcast. And welcome Cam Dance to the podcast. Not Jay Kennedy at all. I lied. Sorry, everyone. How you going, mate?
Yeah, doing all right.
You doing all right? That's good to hear. We've got you on to talk about Scops tonight. So, what happened on Sunday night? We had Postlethwaite win the Super 2 series. Well, how did that go from your side of things?
Yeah, it was a really, really interesting race. It was not quite the result me and Speary expected, for sure. I mean, you had Rosella and Mogridge on the front row, and Posse and Hinsey actually started a little bit further back in P6 and P5, so they were there or thereabouts to have a chance of possibly winning the race. But with the pace that Rosella and that had in the early parts before it all came unstuck for them, it didn't look like they were going to be winners. But with all the drama that ended up happening, they just ended up cruising on through and pretty much doing exactly what they had to do, which was pretty much stay out of trouble and keep their cars nice and clean. So yeah, it was a really, really good fight, and it looked like Hinsey might have just been able to get there in the end with the pace that he had in those last few laps, but the tyres just went off by the looks of it, and unfortunately he had to come home second.
Yes, so Watkins Glen always throws up a little bit of a curveball, and it's one of those ones where if you stay on the track, you're a pretty good chance of winning, and it definitely showed that. Yeah, I was watching at the end, I really thought Hins had a chance. I thought he was going to get him there at the end, but as you said, tyres seemed to go, and I like the final corner, the first corner of the final lap where he just goes wide, and that's the end of him, and Postlethwaite ends up going through and winning, and then winning his way through to the big main event, which was only a sprint race this week. One race, 64 laps. Now, sitting next to Sperry for this race, where it seemed like everything was happening at every 1 second, especially for those last two laps, how was that, just for starters?
Yeah, it was actually really good. I mean, Watkins always is going to be really, really entertaining. It's going to have a lot of close racing, and you're really going to end up being very, very busy. Not only from a driver's perspective, but also commentary with the fact that so much is going on throughout the field, whether it's the front, middle, or back. So it's really, really intense doing Watkins in general. But no, it was a really, really good race in general overall, and there was a lot of good battling. There was a couple of moments where it looked like it might have been a little bit of a dodgy race and one that could expect a lot of carnage. And there was moments where there was a lot of carnage. But no, for the most part, it was a really, really good night overall.
Yeah, I think from the start it looked like that you're going to almost have 40 cars nose to tail the whole way around for about 15, 20, 30 laps, but then they started breaking up, but then obviously Jordan Caruso made the smallest of errors, which ended up costing him his race, and What was it like sitting there watching him stuck in the middle of the bus stop and not going anywhere? Obviously you didn't realise he'd blown his engine till you went to the replay.
Yeah, he was parked in the middle of the bus stop, and we were all trying to figure out what was actually happening because he was just sitting there, and we thought he was just waiting for everybody to go on by, and we thought, well, hang on, you'd think he would have backed it up by now, and then eventually went to the replay and went, oh, he's actually blown the motor. So, yeah, and then safety car was called, and from there it all just turned into a little bit of pit stop chaos with everybody sort of undercutting, overcutting, pitting here and there and taking different fuel loads. Then Hampstead obviously took the lead out of that because of the undercut that he had and taking a lot less fuel than everybody else did. But yeah, it was just one of those things that we were really, really confused by, and the fact that what happened, we didn't quite expect it from someone of like Jordan especially, who we wouldn't have expected like to blow an engine like that. I mean, it is easy to do if you're not careful, but yeah, it was just one of those things that just came unexpectedly.
Obviously shows how close to the edge they're driving at every point in time, but yeah, definitely from someone who's his experience is that, it definitely came as a shock to see it. But so from there we had final probably 13-14 laps really lit up when obviously there was no more safety cars at that stage. That was the last safety car, and Phil Cell had issues. We had Madison Down have issues. Pretty much everyone who was in with a chance. Webster had issues, so it was one of those things, stay alive and you eventually win the race. But talk us through what happened in that last 13 or so laps to see, was it Warren end up winning his first ever race?
Yeah, it was really, really intense at the front, especially with the fact that you had that little sprint to the end with Kirby Jones causing the second safety car and there being about just under 20 or so laps to go. And it was really, really a matter of a sprint race for those front lot because everybody had pitted, everybody had new tyres and everything. So everybody was on reasonably equal footing. But then another safety car came out after the big shunt that happened between Kelly Dyson and a few others further back in the field. And that really, really spiced things up with the fact that it ended up being a 7-lap sprint to the finish pretty much. And just before that, obviously, you had the contact that happened between Down and everybody else getting a little bit held up and balked from Madison just running a little bit too deep into the bus stop, and it really checked that whole group up, and Madison unfortunately ending up in the wall due to contact. But yeah, with that final dash to the finish, it was really, really intense, and the fact that Webster and Warren just went at it toe to toe for the whole 7 laps until with about 3 to go they came to blows with each other through the bus stop, and Webster came off second best and dropped down to just inside the top 20. But yeah, it was really, really intense. And then obviously Anderson was waiting there and sitting there as well, and he had a few others looking like they might just be able to get there, but it just wasn't to be. And Warren ended up coming away with his win.
So the end results were Warren, Burke, and who ended up coming third in that one? I can't remember.
Wayne Burke was the final podium position.
That's what. Okay. So who came second?
Anderson was second. Yeah, Anderson was second to make it a TTR 1-2. Yeah.
That's right. So and big effort for Emily Jones to get in there for a best ever 5th as well. So that was really good to see as well.
Yeah, it was really good.
Any other highlights from the race that we need to touch on?
I think we've pretty much covered off on it all, to be honest. I mean, For the most part, it was one of those races where because it was so long and a track that drafting and everything was such a key component, fuel saving was probably just the main thing, and you saw that through most of the race really, and everybody at the front being patient, not really battling hard as they were going to hold each other up and cause everybody else to catch up behind. But it was pretty much just a standard Watkins race, I guess you'd call it.
Well, even with the 3-4 cars wide across the finish line in the mid-pack, with Webster going across through the grass, I think it was, to get whatever position he ended up with. So chaos in the final corner as always happens at Watkins Glen. But thank you so much thank you so much for your time, Cameron Dance, and we'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks for that, Jay, and look forward to hearing more from him in the future. And hopefully getting him on soon. We definitely do need him on. But let's go into the second biggest race of the week, which was the absolutely packed field for Ozicar Formula Vee's round 2, which went to Alton Park. The little bubby layout, Foster's is the one.
It was.
And we had our very own Braden Martin in race control, mate. What happened from your point of view in the race?
Yeah, so I guess first of all, some surprise guests for this race, which was pretty cool to see. We had the one and only HDT. Is it still holding dealer? What is the Walkinshaw Racing now? Isn't
Walkinshaw
it?
and Andretti Racing.
That's the one. Walkinshaw and Andretti Racing driver Chaz Mostert came to join us in the field.
Walkinshaw, Andretti United.
Yeah, WAU. Which was really cool. I think there was a few people that would have been pretty chuffed to be able to say that they jumped on Wednesday night and got to race against a real-life V8 supercar driver. Having said that, I don't know if the presence of Chaz maybe made some people a little nervous or maybe made some people want to prove some things, but the first race was a little bit hectic. From a race control point of view, no malice and, no real bad driving or anything like that. Just a lot of aggressive moves early and, a few unlucky moments here and there, as people were, one, I think, getting used to these big fields. I think that's playing a small part in it. And two, getting used to racing each other as well. I think, one of the advantages of most of the Skippy field, definitely not so much this season because that's such a big field and there is quite a lot of new people, but especially for the last 2 seasons, the field's been mainly the same sort of 25 to 30 drivers. And we're all pretty good at knowing who can do what and what people are going to do. And it's definitely made the racing super, super clean. Barely a race control incident over sort of 12 weeks of racing in the 2 seasons. So, yeah, it was a bit hectic. But, what I would say to people out there is IRA does a great job of stamping out the rubbish, bad driving, if there is any. And eventually the series will be, super clean. When I say eventually, it already is pretty clean, but it'll be, up to that tip-top standard that I know Ozicar demands. So, yeah, it was...
He's already made a significant change for next week, which is going to the bigger layout for Okayama, which is going to helpfully spread that field out a lot more.
Definitely.
Which is definitely what they need.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think in the first race, there was 9 post-race penalties given out. Like I said, a lot of them not super serious or anything like that, but they were there. The Formula Vees, just like the Skippies, is a open wheeler class, which is a no contact class. So, if you make rear contact or, you drift wide into someone and hit them, because you didn't make the apex or things like that, it's pretty cut and dry that there's going to be some kind of penalty. It's not like a V8 supercar or a TCR car where you can, rub doors a little bit and get away with it. So I think everyone will be better for the run this week. And yeah, the one thing I must say, and I'm sure he won't want me bringing it up and saying it, but I did have to feel for Alex John, who, as you know, in the Skippies is, one of the cleanest drivers in the league, if not the cleanest and most consistent driver. And that's pretty much what won him the championship last season. But unfortunately didn't quite get the brake marker that he thought he was going to get from Chaz, and happened to be the person who gave him a little rear contact and sent him off. So I'm sure he felt like he was going to be public enemy number 1. But I think what was really good, and I don't know if you heard it over the radio, was straight away Ira sort of vouching for him and saying, look, I know this guy, and also I think it was Dennis, maybe might have been the other one, sort of saying, these two are the cleanest drivers, and he's happy to vouch for them as league owner and league runner. That it wouldn't have been anything malicious or anything, and it was a very rare mistake from Alex. So I think that was good.
I have heard though. The penalty, usually it's a 30-second penalty, but what they're doing this time is they're putting him in a Milo car next week, is my understanding of it.
Yeah, so maybe he'll spin or a wheel might fall off or something, I don't know. Something's going to happen to those drivers.
It was really shocking to see on the broadcast, like the fact that Alex doesn't make mistakes and doesn't do anything wrong, and then he just punted Chaz.
That's right.
And I'm like, oh no.
So
he would have felt guilty. Let's get to the results.
Yeah, so Stuart Crawford popped up for his first win due to some indiscretions with the front pack, which we could say. And Sean McKenzie keeps his very consistent opening 2 rounds in the Formula V's going.
What a solid start to the series from him.
Absolutely.
Jesus, well done.
From John Schultz, Lee Partridge, Jason Gilholm, Chaz Mostert, Michael Brennan, Daniel Hederscheid, Max Donnelly, and Stafford Marsland rounding out the top 10. A couple of little shout-outs, I suppose, to our very own Callum Heinrich, 16th
Yeah, what a
spot,
race.
which is really, really good for him. So well done, Callum. That was super impressive to stay out of everyone's trouble. Also, Vic Van Veltzen getting himself a 12th as well, which was a pretty mega drive.
That's
So
awesome for him as well.
really good job by the Locked On boys in that race, which was really nice to see.
Now, race 2, we got back to a bit of normality, I guess. Alex taking away the win. Kirk Broadhurst in second, which was Kirk the one who caused the triple car pile-up at the start of the race 1?
I can't remember off the top of my head, so I won't assassinate his character like that. But
I will definitely no. No, look, those two were some of the fastest from race 1, so it's good to see them back up there. Obviously, Alex, the only person to win 2 races now in Formula V's after 2 rounds. So we've had some 3 different winners now over 4 races, which is really good to see. Sean McKenzie having that consistent start as always in 3rd there as well. Lee Partridge pulled into 4th again in race 2. Well done to Lee. And then very own Nathan Verney rounding out the top 5. Well done. Not spinning, and look what happens when he doesn't spin.
I was just about to say, I was like, do I say it? Do I be that mean guy and say, this is what happens when he doesn't spin?
John Schultz and then Aiden Schultz for 6th, 7th. Daniel Hedderscheid, 8th again. Look at that, all these people doubling up from race 1 to race 2. Alex John in 9th. Cameron Dance in 10th. So well done.
And if you want to...
Chaz Watch puts him in 13th. And you were going to say?
I was just going to say, if you want to speak about, we talked about uncharacteristic mistakes from Alex John, uncharacteristic mistake from Cameron Dance as well. That guy barely ever we see make a mistake or put a foot wrong, and unfortunately made a bit of an error and came together with, I can't remember who else it was at the front of the pack with him, but kind of handed Alex a little bit of luck in that race win, because those two were...
It wouldn't have been Mitch Dean, would it? Because Mitch Dean is significantly far down the pack for where he should have been. I hadn't actually get a chance to watch much of...
Yeah, very well could have been. So,
the old chicken up car?
Yeah, so when Cameron Dance is making mistakes, the field's good because he must be under some kind of pressure, which is good for the series. So
let's go into the points, which sees that Sean McKenzie, a very consistent start, a 1-point lead over Lee Partridge, and Alex McKellar 1 point further back in 3rd. What a series we have lined up.
Absolutely.
Cameron Dance, so far off the pace because of some bad luck this week, 154. Stuart Crawford with his win gets himself up to 150, and Alex John with his punts go back to 147 in 6th. When was the last time you saw Cameron Dance in 4th, Alex John in 6th?
Absolutely.
Wow.
The thing I find pretty interesting about the standings at the moment is if you go from sort of 11th down, it's Nathan Verney and Ira on 11, or in 11th with 111 points, and then it's Stafford and Hedderscheid 2 points back on 109, then Theo Daniel 1 point back, Mitch Dean 1 point back, Aiden Schultz and Vic Van Veltzen 1 point back, Ray Oliver 2 points back, Dennis 2 points back, and then even 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th are all separated by only 5 points as well. So it is very, very tight.
It's absolutely nuts. I can't wait to see what happens this season. It's going to be so good. Going into the team points, top split is very well out in front, though. They've got it locked down already. Alex McKellar and Alex John, 314 points. Team 111 Esports with Stuart Crawford getting the win there helps them to 261. But then we've got into Sim Esports with Aiden Schultz and Paul Jackson in 3rd for 228. And then Locked On iRacing Interviews, Nathan Verney and Vic Ben Feltzen in 4th with 217. Chicken Up Racing so far down for where they should be at 204, so watch them to come back up from 5th in the thing. Pardon me. And then 6th is White Knuckle Racing, 166 points, Sean Doyle and Dennis Hancock. And then Locked On Black Sheep Racing, 164 in 7th. So yeah, look, there's a heaps more teams there and a heaps more to go. But you want to take us to the road to 2K there, because that's actually fairly dominated. By someone.
Yeah, so Lee Partridge is leading that by 43 points after just 2 rounds. So that one is going to be pretty tricky to take off of his hands at this stage. From Jackie Chalmers in 2nd, Paul Jackson in 3rd, Stafford Marsland 4th, and Theo Taylor in 5th. all the way down to Matthew Joy rounding out the bookend on that one. So, yeah, that one's looking like it could be over well and truly very early at this rate.
Yep, definitely. Anyway, so let's move on to the skips. We gave it a fair bit of attention before, so we will just mainly jump into the results tonight. So, do you want to take us through race 1 there, Braden?
Yeah, so race 1 saw Alex McKellar put on another pretty dominant performance, taking the win in that one from John Schultz and Ben Snell, rounding out the podium. Sean McKenzie continuing his pretty consistent run of races this week, at the very least. In 4th from James Chastanoff in 5th, which was technically my spot, but we won't talk about that.
No, we won't.
Brady Baldwin 6th, Alex John down in 7th, Timothy Harris in 8th, Peter Wilkinson in 9th, you're welcome, and Dennis Hancock in rounding out the top 10. Some sort of notable finishes. Unfortunately, Russell Clark 15th due to my mistake. What else do we have on here, actually?
Darren Lassu in 19th was really good. Simon Dobner in 21st, and even Leon there in 20th was a really good result as well.
Yeah, so a few unlucky drivers. Tim decided to go kamikaze through turn 1. So, unfortunately, he didn't fare too well. Not only...
I've never seen a more pointed attack on someone in my life.
I think
you watched the video from, was it Russell's?
It was Russell's, yeah. He must have felt like he was under attack from Locked On Cars, the poor guy.
Tim just missed the corner altogether and flew through the inside of Russell and collected. So David missed the apex by about 5 million meters, but it still wasn't enough for Tim not to go flying into the side of him at about 150 k's an hour in the skip in the slowest braking point on the racetrack.
It was like if you saw that happen in real life, you would assume something's broken on the car and like he was under complete no control. So we're still investigating what happened in that one.
It reminded me of the submarine videos where you see the torpedo just fly out and hit the side of a ship that's a little tugboat or something like that. Anyway, punched a hole in the side of that car for sure. So well done, Tim. Apologies, David Summers. Let's go on to race 2.
Yeah, so race...
what a finish.
It was pretty crazy. It was a very crazy finish. There was a little bit of different pit strategy for a few of the green drivers at the front, but basically all led to them being a pack of 6 for the last couple of laps and battling it out. And I know... Ben Snell picked up an early off track, which meant for the rest of the race he could be quite liberal with the track limits, we could say, which meant that he had some, good exit speeds on certain corners, and Alex McKellar, who he was battling with for the win, had 0x. So he sort of knew if he went off track pushing too hard to stay in front, he would lose those extra 2 bonus points. And even if Ben got past him, he would actually still gain more points from the race than Ben. So he kind of had to be careful, which ultimately led to Ben getting him through the back section of the track. And then on the last corner, they actually made a little bit of contact. But thankfully, well, I say thankfully for them, not thankfully for anyone else in the field. It was a 0x and they continued on. So yeah, Ben Snell led that one from Alex McKellar and Alex John. So that makes Ben Snell the first non-Alex McKellar winner of this series so far. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Well done.
From Russell Clark, who didn't have to contend with me.
The only one he hasn't won. He's come second.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
Russell Clark in 4th because he didn't have to worry about me punting him this time with me starting in 24th. John Schultz in 5th and Donald Sabinal rounding out that hashtag green wool top 6 finish, which someone has to do something about. Chastity and I are trying, and we're trying to get up there. But
putting green on. We even tried green on Chastity's car and it didn't quite work.
Yeah.
Well, it did. It just he blew his engine.
That's it. Yeah. So on the behalf of all of Ozicar, we're sick of you green teams. get stuff. No, just joking.
I do like that though. So you've got the top 6 are green, and then you go 7th is James Chastanoff, 8th is Braden Martin, 9 is Tim Harris, who's now got a connection with Locked On Racing. 10th is Matthew Mites. 11th is Nathan Harvey. So we took up the next 5 cars realistically.
Nathan Verney.
Nathan Verney. I'm looking. Yeah. Anyway, let's go move on from that. No one heard anything. That's the next 5, and then Scott Harvey breaks it up because then we had Tim Corton 13th. So we had 6 between the top 13. There's really 6 12 of those cars have a connection with one or the other teams.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
It's good to see.
So Sean McKenzie, unfortunately, didn't have quite as a consistent race in that one, finishing 16th. Yourself down in 22nd.
Well done to Jeremy Bush, though, 15th.
Yep.
Really good effort there. And Farron Hancock's and Dennis Hancock's there, 17th and 18th, were really good as well.
Yeah, so that leaves us with the series points. So Alex McKellar's got a pretty commanding lead by 14 points over Ben Snell, who's got 21 points over Alex John. From Russell Clark on 158, myself on 156, Sean McKenzie 151, and Donald Sabanel 148. James Chastanoff, Matthew Mites, and Dennis Hancock are tied for 9th, and that was Chastity in 8th. And yourself is sitting in 14th, so you'd be pretty happy with that so far?
Yeah, and if I had got those 2 bonus points from race 1, round 2, I'd be sitting in 13th ahead of Tim Harris. But anyway, we won't be salty about that forever, I guess. Just for now. Very happy with that at the moment. So,
the team points, again, see Top Split Racing running away with it at the moment. 375 from Van Diemen Racing, 306. And then the 2 locked on iRacing cars having a little bit of a battle for 3rd place at the moment. With myself and Vernie 284, and then Chastity and Matthew Mites on 283, tied with Van Diemen Racing Noodle Squad.
So that's 1 point covering 3 teams for 3rd place.
Yeah,
that is nuts. White Knuckle then in 5th, 247. Locked on Black Sheep Racing 215 in 6th. White Knuckle Racing 2 in 7th on 192. Missed Apex in 8th. So well done to Craig and Simon there, 179 points ahead of Rookie Racing, Greg Helms and Anthony Connors in 9th. And then me and Tim in the Man Cave car in 10th. And then Shield Crawford and Ira Felberg down in 11th spot. That's interesting. Then there's a whole other teams there as well. A couple single teams as well. So that is Aussie Skip Barber. Let's move on to ANZCAR. We've got Carl with you again to bring all the latest ANZCAR results to you. So take it away, Carl.
Hello chaps and chapettes, and welcome to the ANZCAR Roundup here on Locked On iRacing. I'm as ever Carl Withy, and we are going to start off with round 7 of the ANZCAR Truck Series from Michigan. Jaden Russell would once again show his pace on the ovals, taking pole position with the ever-quick Jason Martin starting to his side. We'd see 10 laps of green flag running at the start with some fast and furious action. Trucks running 2 to 3 wide at times. Jason Martin would take the lead. As the caution came out, all the cars would take the opportunity to pop into the pit lane and pop on some new boots. We would see a long stint of green with only 4 cautions for the night. The battle for the lead was frantic, with Josh Micklemore and Aidan Schultz battling when a caution came out with 15 to go. The drivers would pit for the last time, and a 10-lap dash would bring us some fantastic action. The Mitch boys of Micklemore and Martin managed to take out the win and 2nd place, while the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th would give us a great finish to the race, with nothing between 4th and 5th at the very end. Final results was Josh Micklemore 1st, Jason Martin 2nd, Aidan Schultz 3rd, Edward Foster 4th, and Riley Curtis 5th, who had gained 29 positions throughout the night. The championship looks like this after 7 rounds. Foster on 269 points, Martin 24 points down, Micklemore 25 points behind the leader, Hedesheed 40 points down, Robbie 55 points, Nathan Clark 59, Raymond 73, Norman Clark 74, Finley 83, and Wellman 86 off the lead in 10th position. The trucks head to Kentucky next time. Who will be finger-licking good and who will fry it? Round 7 of the Wednesday Night Thunder Series would see the Xfinity cars take on the tricky triangle of Pocono. Familiar name Brenton Hobbo Hobson and Jaden Russell would lock out the front row, once more showing their pace on the ovals has improved immensely. The race would run for the first 23 laps under green, with some fast and furious frantic racing at the front, with 2 packs forming up. Foster, Skurlock, Micklemore, Gallagher, Russell and Hobbo would be battling for the lead up to the first caution. This would allow the field to come into the pit lane. Caution actually helped out Gary Wellman, who had just left the pit lane when the yellow flew. He would take the lead, however Jake Maloney would work his way up the field and battle it out with Skurlock, Micklemore and Russell up to lap 34 when the yellow would fly once more and all the cars would jump back into pit lane for some fresh tyres and fuel. The rest of the race would remain green with some great battles throughout the pack, but we would see Jake Maloney take the checkered flag, starting from the back of the grid to take the victory. The results were as followed: Maloney first, Micklemore second, Hobson third, Gallagher fourth, Russell fifth. We're still missing out the Nashville round for the championship, but as it stands, Gallagher is in the lead with 245 points, Phelps 19 points back, West 37 points down, Norman Clark 15 points back, Micklemore 60 down, Donnelly 61 points down, Davidson 66 points down, Hobson 71 points down, Hunter 74 points down, and Carol Walden 75 points off the lead in 10th position. Round 18 and 19 of the ANZCAR Cup Series would also be at Pocono, a double header of two 40-lap races. Philip Worley would take pole with Jason Martin on his outside. The Cup cars were happy to run too wide for most of the race, the track getting a little bit cluttered when they decided to go 5 wide down the front straight. Worley would drop back at the start, allowing Martin and Micklemore to look out the front two positions, with Barry Neal hot on their heels. Lap 8 would see the only caution fly, allowing the drivers to enter pit lane. Maloney would run away after the restart, managing to pass the Mitch cars of Micklemore, Gallagher and Martin. We would see some great action down the pack with some very close racing from a very long green stint. First place was Maloney, Micklemore in second, third Gallagher, fourth Martin, fifth for Foster. Race 2 would see the field reset to their qualifying positions, but race 2 did not run as clean as the first. Worley would maintain at P1 ahead of Martin for the first 6 laps before the first caution would fly. All the drivers would take this opportunity to come into pit lane. A few drivers would gamble on right side tyres only, gaining track position for the lack of the left side tyres. Foster would get the best out of this, taking the lead of the race. Tyre limits became a bit of a worry for drivers as there were a few more cautions. Having only 3 sets of tyres for the 40-lap race meant a few drivers would have to limit their pit stops. A few drivers would gamble after lap 14 with another caution, coming in for some fresh tyres. However, lap 21 would see the majority of the field come in when another caution would fly, the field taking the opportunity to get their final set of tyres. With only one more caution, the race would settle and we would see some great side-by-side action. And once again, Jake Maloney would take the checkered flag for the 3rd time this week at Pocono. First place for Maloney, second for Micklemore, third for Worley, fourth for Phelps and fifth for Gallagher. Again, we're missing out the Nashville event, but the results as they stand are Micklemore in first place with 645, Pearson 44 points off the lead, Martin 49 points down, Danny G 58 points off the lead, Skurlock 74, Gallagher 77, Foster 99, Raymond 119, and Dyson 143 with Luke Traher in 10th, 156 points off the lead. All of those drivers, of course, in for the chase, but they have to make it stay there to the end of the season. Next week, the Xfinity and Cup cars will be heading to Road America. We look forward to seeing you there on FGM eCast, Ferguson Group Media, your place for e-pace, and always a huge thank you to Locked On iRacing, your place for the best Aussie sim racing action. Back to you guys.
And thank you, Carl. And we're going to jump straight from Carl straight into Justin Howe, whose Pro Trucks Showdown was on again tonight, and they were at Sebring, of all places, the full track. So ready to hear from Justin on how they went. Thank you, and take it away, Justin. And I lied again. We are joined again by Cameron Dance to talk Pro Trucks Showdown, round 5 last night, where we went to Sebring. How you going again, Cam?
Yeah, Doug, all right. Funny I'm back
like
here
I
again.
just talked to you a second ago. Thank you for joining us yet again. And you did some commentary last night with the Pro Truck Showdown. Unfortunately, Justin Howe's had to duck off really quickly before I've been able to record this, so we've pulled you in again. Now, what happened in the race last night? Talk us through the 3 epic races around Sebring.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. I mean, Sebring is a really, really cool track, and it usually puts on really good racing. Doesn't matter what car or series you're racing in, it really does highlight some really, really good moments. But this just amplified things because of the fact that you have these trucks, which, I mean, aren't necessarily built for the road courses, and the drafts are very, very strong in these things. So it ended up being a really, really close fight between a lot of the drivers, and it ended up being a little bit of a mixed bag result as well for some drivers as well. But it was pretty much Webster and Hobson who more or less dominated the majority of the night with the second 2 races as well. Webster having to come through the field in the first race after not getting a lap in, which we saw a few drivers not get their laps in due to invalidating them with the off track.
He didn't even get past turn 1.
No.
Interesting, poor guy.
Yeah, and it was just one of those things around this track with the fact that you're pushing so hard that you just invalidate your one and only flying lap in the series, which makes it interesting. And he worked his way forward to get to 8th, which he just missed out on pole for race 2. But yeah.
That's a shame. So in race 2, what happened in that one?
It was pretty much just a one-on-one battle between those top two, obviously Hobson and Webster going toe-to-toe pretty much the entire time. And Webster barely came out on top over Hobbo, who tried his best, but it just wasn't to be in the end. He got revenge in the third race, luckily, but yeah, it was just so close. And every finish was just unbelievably close because of the fact that you had that outside line providing so much better of a run to the finish line, and then also that inside line trying to be a bit more defensive and working. But yeah, it was just so close between all of them, and the race 2 order was shaken up a little bit more as well with the fact you had Maloney in there, McLeod, Rasmussen, and a few others in that top 10, which you didn't see in the likes of race 1.
Yep, excellent. Well, there you go. So Pro Truck Showdown is on Tuesday nights at 7:30, I believe, or 8 o'clock on SimSpeed TV. Definitely go check it out on Facebook if you want to check out more of that. Go give Justin some love, because I would have loved to have had him on here, and he really does look forward to recording these sessions with me, but unfortunately he couldn't make it tonight. But thank you, Cam, for stepping in, and we'll hopefully talk to you again very soon, but not as soon as I just talked to you now.
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, mate, thanks, mate. See ya, bye.
That's it.
And thank you, Justin, for that. Justin's doing a little bit of stuff in the background for Locked On Racing as well, or Locked On iRacing podcast as well. So look forward to seeing some stuff from him in the future. Also, then we go on to Sunday Night Lights. So Alex McKellar's done a little bit of stuff for us once again, as you heard in the interview podcast that happened on Sunday night. We did a little. He's now working with us, so let's hear from Alex on what happened at, where was it this week?
Sonoma.
Sonoma. Yeah, Sonoma Cup track. So let's take it away, Alex.
G'day everyone, Alex McKellar here, the host of Top Split TV's ongoing coverage of Sunday Night Lights. The SNL drivers rolled out for the biggest race of the official series each week, and despite the relative unpopularity of the circuit amongst the broader Skippy community, those who turned up to turn it on for SNL did so to the tune of a 4,600 plus strength of field. Sonoma once again showing that it is a driver's circuit, perhaps surprisingly even outstripping the strength of field for the free track in round 1. Qualifying not only saw the return of last season's champion Benny Simonsen, but also his strong form in qualifying, with the Danish expat taking pole by nearly 2.5 tenths, which was a big statement amongst the quality field. Also making his return to SNL for season 24 was Sebastian Schultz, who in sitting beside Simonsen on the front row was the first of the remaining field of 18 drivers looking to take it up to the pole sitter. The second row of the grid was a lockout for Team Movano Sim Racing, with Ludwig Guidi in third and his teammate Manu, Big Breaks Luqueta, looking to go 2 for 2 to begin season 24 of SNL, but looking to do so starting from fourth. A welcome return to the top split saw leading ANZ Club qualifier Team Milo's Ben Snell start from fifth on the grid in an outstanding effort, just 3.5 tenths off pole and less than a tenth from the front row. With the top 12 drivers separated by less than a second in qualifying, the tight times saw the likes of Week 1 podium getter Alexis Vico, along with Gail Kawabe and the Cowboy Sam Devantier, relegated to starting from the second half of the grid. When racing got underway for the 18-lap race, the running was hot at the front as you would expect, but it was Benny Simonsen who tore away from the field almost from the off and would very quickly move away to a commanding lead. Breaking up the front pack further was a lap 3 contact between Julian O'Fray and Ben Snell in the hardest braking zone of the turn 11 hairpin. The check-up of the leaders catching out O'Fray, whose contact to the rear of the Milo car saw Snell facing the oncoming traffic in the middle of the corner and picking up subsequent damage from contact with fellow ANZ Club driver Corey Lean that saw Snell make an early retirement and an end to his long-awaited return to the broadcast race. O'Fray would offer his apologies up in the post-race interviews, and having seen the Red-Face Racing team driver over many seasons, we know he's a top-class driver and a gentleman to boot. The incident chalked up as an unfortunate part of the super close racing we invariably see each Sunday night. The action did, however, see the front four cars break away, with Simonson continuing to set the pace out in the lead from the Mivano sandwich of Guidi, Schultz and Lucchetta, who continued to put on a spectacular battle for the remainder of the race. Surviving the touch with Snell that ended his race, Corey Lean went on to put in a very solid performance in his first outing for season 24, climbing 5 positions through the top half of the field to be the leading ANZ driver, finishing in 5th, holding off the likes of O'Fray, Vico and Amadio in doing so. The battle up front saw a virtually constant flow of positional changes between Schultz, Lucchetta and Guidi throughout the race, with a final lap side-by-side run through the turn 11 hairpin, seeing the Mivano Sim Racing Team's drivers of Guidi and Lucchetta relegate Sebastian Schultz to 4th, taking out 2nd and 3rd positions respectively. While up front, Simonson ran a flag-to-flag clinic, clearing out by close to 5 seconds by the time he crossed the line, and was a mere 2/100ths off the fastest lap, having run the entire race in clean air without the benefit of draft. With his pole position, Simonson secured maximum points in his return to SNL racing for the season. However, speaking to Top Split TV after the race, Simonson has informed us that due to real-life racing commitments, he may not be able to complete the full 8 scoring rounds this season, likely leaving both the SNL and official Skip Barber season well up for grabs. Aside from the top 5 finish of Lean, the ANZ Club racers had a pretty disastrous night, with Russell Clark, Ben Snell and Sam Devantier all finishing at least 2 laps down at the tail of the field. They'll need to find some luck in the rounds to come in order to figure on the leaderboard in the remainder of the season. Going around the grounds in our coverage of the lower splits of SNL, we saw Team Milo's John Scholz take full advantage of his appearance and run away with a dominant win by 3.5 seconds, securing another week of solid championship points. Mark Jeffrey's third split win in round 1 saw him promoted to the second split this week, where he again secured good points with an 8th place finish. Also in the second split, but just outside the SNL points, in lucky 13th was Ken Hyams, with Locked On iRacing's own Nathan Verney not far behind him in 16th. Turning our attention to the leaderboard after the conclusion of round 2, Lucchetta's win from round 1 backed up with a solid podium finish sees him atop of the SNL standings, with his teammate Ludwig Guidi locking out a Mivano 1-2 just 3 points behind him. Despite finishing a little further down in the order this week, Alexis Vico hangs on to 3rd position, with Julian O'Fray sitting in 4th. After winning the second split in round 1 and a top 10 finish at Sonoma this week, Speedy Snails driver Håkon Grebsted rounds out the top 5 in the standings. After his second split win this week, John Scholz rises 13 positions to sit 8th and lead the ANZ contingent. Mark Jeffrey, once again banking good points, jumps 10 positions on the ladder to be in the top 10 in the championship after 2 weeks. Not since season 11 of the series in 2018 has Jeffrey seen such a strong start to the season. Jeffrey that season was able to parlay good results into a podium finish overall, which augurs well for his tilt at the title this time round. With that, we turn our attention to round 3, where the SNL Freight Train returns to the Grand Prix layout at Suzuka, one of the great tracks of the world and surprisingly well suited to the low-powered Skip Barber cars, with a combination of technical and flowing sectors and a lap that sees drivers finish each lap with their heart in their mouths on the run through 130R, where the rear of the car desperately wants to become the front and send each driver flying off into the nearest barrier. So join us on the track or over on the Top Split TV Twitch channel next Sunday night at 9:15 p.m. Australian Standard Time for some of the best racing you'll find anywhere. It really is the place to be on a Sunday night. Thank you once again to our friends over at the Locked On iRacing podcast for giving us another way to share the series that we're so very proud to present. A big thank you also to Locked On iRacing's Braden Martin, who stepped into the commentary booth for the first time at very late notice this week, as the Chaotic One continues to work through his technical issues. It was a really big ask, and he came through with flying colours, and it was seriously an amazing help to me. Finally, a massive shout out to the ongoing support we get from the drivers in the SNL Skippy community. You really are the reason we turn up each week. And as we say, it's for the community, by the community, and that's how we like it. For now, though, this is Alex McKellar signing off until next week. Ciao for now.
And thank you, Alex, for that. Just quickly, too, before we start wrapping this up, we did have the Monday Night V's happen last night. From all reports, it wasn't the best. It was a very good strength of field, as in 3,000 plus again, but the quality of the field, the driving standards weren't the best. So, unfortunately, due to that, hopefully it'll get better over time, but we just don't have time to put into it at the moment. We'll still advertise it and look after it, but hopefully we can gain some better quality out of those races fairly soon, and we'll cover it a bit more when that happens, but just time poor at the moment, unfortunately. So hopefully we'll see a bit more of that in the future. But look, that is it for the results at this stage. There's a whole heap of other stuff happening, and if you do want to help us out with that, let us know. Get it on the Facebook Locked On Lads or Discord lockedonlads.com/Discord. Come hit us up and help us out. We'd love to follow not only your news and things like that, but also the results. So happy to work with anyone out there. Grow this podcast, especially the news and the results side of it. We want to cover as much of the community as we can. So look, we'd like to thank Clayton Davies, for starters, for his generous effort of helping sponsor the podcast for the first time. It really does help, because we are putting a lot of effort into this, not only actual money for podcast hosting and artworks and all different bits and pieces. It's actually the time that we're putting into it is the other major part of it, and to get a little bit back is a huge effort. So looking forward to announcing a few more people in the future, and if you are interested, definitely hit us up. We've got some ideas for what we can do for you, but if you are interested, definitely send us a message on, like I said, one of those two places, or contact us at lockedonlads.com, and we'll be happy to talk about it a bit further. But if, like I said, Clayton Davies, CD Cinematography, go check him out on Facebook, give him a message, and see if he can do some help you out there. And we'll have the link in the show notes below. But thank you, Braden, for putting up with tonight. We've got to go to a photo shoot. We've got to start looking beautiful in our best.
The paparazzi are calling.
The channel downstairs is massive. Yeah, so where can people find you, mate?
Yeah, so if you want to catch one of my streams, it's been nice to see a few people jumping over there here and there, and joining in the fun and having a chat. I streamed a couple of those races that I did on the weekend. They didn't go that well, as I wasn't very good at Sonoma, but you can find that at twitch.tv/the1dwade. And if you want to hear me chatting rubbish about any other sports like Formula One or football or cricket or basketball or whatever else takes my fancy, feel free to head over to Twitter and give me a follow at Braden Talks.
Definitely do that. And if you want to follow my stuff, Locked On Lads on Twitch is the main spot. If you want to see me live, check out our Facebook, because I'm also live over there generally. So Locked On Lads on Facebook. Come have a chat in Discord, where you'll find me as Wilco. That is lockedonlads.com/Discord. Definitely go check out Clayton Davies Cinematography on Facebook as well. But look, other than all that, thank you so much, everyone, for the support and the help and everything. The money, all that kind of stuff has been absolutely amazing. So we've got some big things coming up that we'll need your help with as well. So, like I said, thank you so much for everyone so far, and we'll catch you in the interview podcast this week, which I haven't even plugged. Emily Jones is going to be on. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm really looking forward to this. But until then, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you later. Bye.
Drive safe, drive fast.